I mean, I slept through it pretty much every single time I was in Disney World, so I guess I can't say I'm gonna miss it, but it looks like the Magic Kingdom rope drop is dead. That's right, Disney recently announced last week on the Disney Park blogs that they are going to be changing the way that guests enter the Magic Kingdom every morning.
According to the park's blog, beginning January 9th, guests will be allowed to enter the Main Street USA area of the park even earlier than the park's scheduled opening time. Then promptly at opening, a new welcome show will officially open the park for the day on the Castle Forecourt stage. A royal herald will appear to deliver a proclamation and welcome a few familiar characters to the stage, officially opening the park so the magic can begin.
So why is this happening? What does this mean? I think it's important to talk about what we do know for sure and what we don't know for sure. What we do know for sure is that starting on January 9th, for an unspecified amount of time, the way we enter the Magic Kingdom is going to change. There's no longer going to be a rope drop ceremony at the front gates. Instead, it's going to be held closer to the hub, and people are going to have a little extra time in the morning to wander and peruse around Main Street USA before they can go on rides. We do not know how long this is going to be for. We don't know why they're doing it, but we can make some educated guesses. For one, I think it's a safe assumption that this is going to be the way things work from now on, until further notice. Doesn't mean they're never going to change it in the future, but I don't think this is a limited engagement. Some people have predicted that maybe this is because of the Walt Disney World Railroad being refurbished, and then they'll eventually go back to the old rope drop, but I don't think this is the case. I think if it was going to be a limited time thing, they would have announced that in the blog itself, because they'd be able to spin that as like, this is a limited engagement, exclusive show, and so, come check it out now while you still can. But they don't do that. They just say that this is the new way of doing things. Furthermore, I think, changing the way the park entrance operates and changing the way guests get into the park and creating a whole new show just because of the refurbishment of the railroad makes very little sense to me. I think if they were going to temporarily refurbish that railroad, they just wouldn't do a rope drop ceremony for whatever that extended length of time is. So that's, I think, the first thing we can guess, is that this is going to stick around from January 9th onwards until something new comes along. And for all we know, that could be years or decades from now. Second thing, why are they doing this? Of course, it's Disney. They're never really going to say. They don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how they operate these parks. I think the safe assumption is that it's a safety and convenience thing. Bag checks are nothing new to the Magic Kingdom. Metal detectors are relatively new. And I think security's been amped up a lot more since the events of 2016. And I think they're probably going to amp them up even more going into the future. Now, what that does is create a bottleneck at the front gates. Now, the bottleneck is, one, an inconvenience, because now you've got these major crowds trying to funnel through security so that they could get into the parks, which, let's be honest, is like not a very magical experience. And two, that itself becomes a security concern, because whenever you have a large mob of people, one, that's a vulnerability, two, that's a safety hazard in case that mob decides to just like flock in one direction or another. You never really want to have people mobbed together and like scrunched together like that. So what I would assume is that Disney tried to think of a way that would, one, keep some sort of opening ceremony show in the Magic Kingdom, but two, allow security the time to funnel guests into the park so that you don't end up with this giant mob right at 9 o'clock who has to get through security. And so the way this would work is that, while they haven't said how much earlier you can enter the park, maybe it's a half hour, maybe it's an hour, security will be able to go through bag checks, they'll be able to do the metal detectors, get guests onto Main Street, so that way when they do the performance at 9 o'clock or whenever the park opens that day, guests will just be able to go on into the rides that they want to go on. They don't have to worry about getting in line just to get into the park, which in a way I think kind of maintains the magic of the park. I think a lot of people talk about how that's being diminished a bit by not having a show right at the front gates. But let's be honest, in the world we live in today, you need to have that security. And with that security, it's going to take away a bit from that magic. You watch this really cool opening rope drop ceremony, and then you go and have your bags checked and you have to go through a metal detector, and that sort of, takes away from that effect a little bit. So I think this mitigates that. and allows people to relax on Main Street a bit before heading off into the rides that they want to go on. Some people are bummed. You know, Christine was a big fan of the rope drop. It's funny, we recorded a video just the day before this news dropped in which we're referencing it. I've never seen it myself in person, so I can't really feel like I'm losing out on anything. But I can understand where people are coming from. You know, it is sort of a tradition, and now that tradition is changing. But, you know, let's consider for a second what the alternatives are. Disney could have just gotten rid of the rope drop completely and done nothing. They could have, you know, implemented this early entrance and then just had no ceremony and then the park just opens. But instead they're trying to find a good compromise, which allows for the security to continue, but also, you know, changes it in a way that guests are a little bit more comfortable and still adds this element of, you know, show at the beginning of every morning to make this something special. And who knows, you know, while it is an iconic sort of opening ceremony, maybe this new show is going to be equally iconic 10 years down the line. This might become the new classic rope drop for kids who start going there when they're younger and grow up with it. So I'm open-minded to it. I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I'm surprised at how last second, like the news dropped like right at the end of December, and then, you know, it's starting January 9th. I kind of like this quick turnaround, so there isn't a lot of anticipation. There isn't a lot of time for guests or, you know, hardcore Disney fans to get super angry about it. It's just like ripping off a Band-Aid. So I kind of hope Disney stays with that trend. But I want to know what you guys think about it. Let me know. Were you guys the type of guests who would always go to rope drop and this is a big change for you? Or maybe, you know, you strolled into the park leisurely, you know, into the mid-morning and this is no big deal and isn't going to change anything. You can let me know in the comments below. You can also let me know on Twitter. I'm at RobPlays. If you want to see more videos like this, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I do 3 a week. I want to thank you all for watching. Whatever you're doing this week, make the most of it, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.